Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You know the drill at this point. My name is Dan. That is a movie fan, librarian, and host of the podcast, Did You Do Your Homework? And love you, Martha Sullivan. How you doing today?
Not too bad. How are you?
I am hanging in there. So
it's
we
the
are
most we can hope for sometimes.
In this day and age, absolutely. Like hanging in there that's like top tier shit right there. So in this miniature series, we are going over each Oscar 2022 Oscar Best Picture nominee film by film, dissecting like what we like about it, we think could change, what it means for the ceremony. We go over, Oscar news developments like for the lead up to the ceremony. Hope you've been catching the other episodes. This week we are going over King Richard, which is the American biographical drama film starring Will Smith as the titular character, following his raising and the development of real-life tennis legends Venus and Serena Williams. I didn't know what to make of this film going in. I think I have mixed feelings about it, but I think I wound up liking it more than I thought I was going to.
I love an inspirational sports movie. However, so first, I love an inspirational sports movie, and I love that we got an inspirational sports movie about two Black girls. However, I am much more interested in the version of this movie that is about Venus and Serena and them becoming the best athletes in the world.
Yes.
I did not love that we had to tell this story through the point of view of their father, who I think this movie files too many of the edges off of how what he may have thought of as like a tough love training situation, and sure. I think in many ways was actually pretty awful for the two of them growing up.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be like trying to make an inspirational picture about Joe Jackson.
Yeah, and I know that the movie is largely based on Richard Williams' autobiography, so of like the starting material is going to be pretty biased. Venus and Serena are also executive producers on the movie, so I feel like there is also a measure of we would not like our family to come across in a bad light.
Sure.
I'm very cognizant of the fact that it was also probably important to produce a piece of Black-led media that did not portray like abusive parental dynamics.
Sure.
But also, in terms of who I care about in this story, it's not really Richard. Like, I was much more into the parts of the movie that focus on Venus and Serena, especially since Senia Sidney, who plays Venus, and Demi Singleton, who plays Serena, are fantastic. Like,
they're great.
They're wonderful. And also actually learned how to play tennis for this movie. So I would have liked a version of this movie that was much more focused on the two of them, their relationship growing up. I thought that the rivalry, the kind of rivalry that sort of develops between them when Richard can only sort of afford to support Venus and her training, and Serena has to kind of get sidelined in order for her sister to be the one that is like progressed through juniors in the pros, particularly in light of the fact that Serena's the greatest athlete of all time at this point.
It's like, don't worry, you still have me.
And like Venus, I mean, they are both incredible once in a lifetime athletes, and I think I would have enjoyed or been more interested in a version of this movie that was more about the two of them rather than having that story filtered through the lens of their dad.
Understandable. And yeah, it's like you said, there are a lot of aspects to think about, both with politics, with marketability. Will Smith is by far the biggest name attached to the film. I feel like they had to take his ego into account. And
he's also a producer.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very rare when you get an authorized biopic that is in any way objective.
Oh yeah. I frequently feel like they should not really be making, first of all, that if you're going to make a biopic, family members should not be that heavily involved outside of like fact checking.
Sure.
I think this happened with Bohemian Rhapsody because the band made that movie. It was never going to be like a story that I felt was particularly true.
Oh, even from the formation of the band, it was just completely inaccurate.
Right. So yeah, it was a bummer to, I was reading a history versus Hollywood.com article. They frequently do fact checking, like on biopics and movies based on historical events. And a lot of the like big stuff is true. But let me find the one that really kind of hit me reading in this article. Sorry, this is very compelling recording. Oh, so nope, that's not it. So in the real world, in reality, one of the things that Richard Williams did in order to toughen up Venus and Serena was that while they were practicing, he would bus in groups of kids to come in and like insult them and what's it called when you're in the audience? Heckle. He would brought them in to heckle them. So that they would get used to being verbally abused on the tennis court. Like, that's not in the movie.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Yeah, it's a pretty large detail that they're just kind of omitting.
And also, another thing that came up in this fact check report is that there were reports of Richard being so harsh on the girls while he was training them while they were still in Compton, that like the gang members that the movie does portray would actually try to intervene in between him and the girls. So like stuff like that, where it's like this movie is definitely a rose-colored glasses vision of Richard and how hard he was on these two girls, like in the name of teaching them how to be champions, whatever that means.
Yeah, like he even like, you know, states his purpose, like, you know, Richard the character states his purpose in the first scene where it's like, I'm just trying to keep these kids off of the streets.
Right. And I think that the movie is trying to draw or is trying to kind of bring into question, like, even if your motives are good, does that excuse bad methods if your motives are good? And I felt like that was maybe a point that the movie could have hit a little bit harder, particularly in the latter half when Venus starts to become old enough and assured enough in her talent and her skill and her readiness. Like, she is ready to be playing matches before Richard is ready to let her do that. And that dynamic was one that I kind of wanted to see more. Like, I wanted to see her pushing against his boundaries a little bit more. And I do wonder, because at that point she's 14, like how much testing of that has she been doing? And why don't we get to see a little bit more of that? Because that is another thing that comes out mostly in between Richard and John Bernthal, who's playing their coach.
Right.
What is his name? See, I don't know anything about tennis.
I know literally nothing about tennis.
Rick Massey, who ran like a big tennis academy. We see that conflict between the two men, but not so much between Richard and the girls. And I don't know, the girls were always who I was more interested in.
I don't disagree, and it definitely came down to, you know, who the headliner name was in the film. I don't know. So it was a longer movie in length, and this was one of the first times where I think the film suffered for its length, but not even because I thought it was too long. It felt like, just with the pacing, they were trying to consolidate a mini series into 2.5 hours.
Yeah, at one point there's a time jump that I did not clock until somebody was like, "You haven't let her play a match in 3 years." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Is that how long we've been here?" Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah, and you know, in a perfect world, I would probably do like an 8 episode miniseries of this, focusing more from the perspective of Venus and Serena, but also keeping Richard as both the titular character, but have it just less through his perspective.
Yeah, and I think with that you could have gone further. Like this movie ends with Venus's first pro tournament where she plays she plays the see, I don't know anything about tennis.
Sean Stafford.
No, I don't think so.
Venus initially struggles in her first professional match against Sean Stafford, but eventually triumphs.
She wins against Stafford, and then she loses against the French, the woman who won like the French Open like 3 times in a row.
Arangsta Sanchez Vicaro. Guys,
yes.
This is the most prepared episode so far.
Which was an interesting place to end the movie, because she loses that match, but from somebody who does not watch actual tennis but really enjoys a professional sports movie, I was like, it doesn't matter if you win this match. And the movie does hit on that. Like she loses that match because she was never going to win against a 3-time world champion.
Right.
But just the fact that she's 14 and debuting on this world stage and like has the tenacity to go up against that match. I truly forgot the original point. Oh, if this was a miniseries, we could have gone further. Like that would have been the end of episode like 3. And then we could have like gone on to see what happened for her after that, like what doors winning that match opened, you know, how she takes that loss and segues it into one of the greatest tennis careers anyone has ever seen. But I do think if we're working within the bounds of a like 2 hour and 20-minute film, this movie was so long, Dan.
You know, right?
In that sense, it was a solid place to end it. I did think that those end credit like notes, the little notes that you always get at the end of a based on a real story,
for sure,
like those did a lot of heavy lifting in this case. I don't know, this one left me pretty cold, I gotta say.
You know, despite the very selective storytelling, out of the 3 films that Will Smith has been nominated for Best Actor, and the other 2 being Ali and what was the other one with Jaden Smith?
The Pursuit of Happiness?
Pursuit of Happiness. This is probably my favorite performance of his. Probably just because it's the most understated.
Your favorite performance of his, like full stop?
No, performance of his that got nominated for Best Actor. It's basically like it's not giving me much to work with, admittedly.
That is something that I wanted to talk to you about. I think it's weird when Will Smith tries to play like a normal dude. And I felt like this movie is working both because of and also despite Will Smith. Like Richard Williams wants to be in this movie. He wants to be very over the top and larger than life, and keeps running up against people who are like, you're just a dude. Will Smith is not someone I ever want to see playing just a dude. Like, my favorite performances of his are tied for Men in Black and Independence Day, when he's playing somebody extremely high pitched, extremely over the top, like just going kind of full out with these outrageous sort of like genre character types. I don't love seeing him subdued. He's not as interesting to me that way. Like, he's so good at doing the very highly pitched stuff.
Sure.
That when he pulls it back, I'm kind of like, but that's not what I'm here for.
I don't disagree, but I think in this particular instance, he pulled this one off. There have been other attempts where it was clearly his try for an Oscar win, the last being Concussion, which he wasn't even nominated for.
Yeah.
And he really just spent 2.5 hours chewing on the scenery that whole time. And I think he learned from that mistake and brought that into this film.
So I've never seen Ali, but just thinking of like other real people who are that kind of over the top character, that kind of seems like a good fit for him.
He was the one, I'm not even gonna say the one, he was the best aspect of that movie, but it was also a great performance surrounded by a poorly put together film.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, the pacing was off. I thought Jamie Foxx was great, but they didn't get enough scenes together to really bounce off of one another where there could have been a lot of really good chemistry. I don't know. I saw it in theaters in 2001. I don't think I ever like thought to watch it again.
So it's going to be a weird question.
Go on.
Was he in that movie?
Jamie Foxx?
No, Will Smith.
Yeah, he played Muhammad Ali.
Okay, I was in the wrong part of IMDb, and I was like, why can't I find this movie credit?
Oh yeah, I went to see it because Will Smith.
Yeah, no, I had the producer tab open, and he did not produce that movie. So I'm looking at it going, was he in that movie? Of course he was. I haven't seen it.
You're just crushing it this time, Martha.
Truly.
Love it.
No, we're doing good. But yeah, this one, its inclusion in the Best Picture category is a bit of a head scratcher for me. Like, I get the Will Smith nomination for Best Actor, like that. Sure. I don't think he should win, but I get that his name is in there. I am not sure what this movie is doing here.
Yeah.
Like, even a movie like Don't Look Up, which I didn't like, is sort of
understood.
Yeah, like that one I could kind of see the rationale for, but this one feels like when we nominate someone for Best Actor, they also get the Best Picture nomination, because clearly the reason this movie is good is this guy. I don't agree with that all the time necessarily, and I think it is one of the many ways that the Academy finds to be misogynistic.
Sure.
But this one really feels, I don't know. This was not a big enough cinematic event for me to really understand what the reasoning is for its inclusion here.
Yeah, I think the film tried to be that big of a cinematic event and could have been in execution had, the aforementioned issues we had with the film been worked on. But you know, because the other Best Actor nominees are Javier Bardem, Benedict Cumberbatch, Andrew Garfield, and Denzel Washington. And I really think it's going to be between Will Smith and Benedict Cumberbatch.
I agree. Also, just looking at that list, I'm confused as to why Tick, Tick, Boom and The Tragedy of Macbeth are not in the Best Picture category, because I would have put money on either of those being on the ballot before this one. Although when we talk about West Side Story, we'll talk about how there can only be one musical at a time.
True.
So you sent me an article about the SAG Award winners.
Yes.
And Will Smith won the best, whatever the SAG Awards call, Best Actor.
Yeah, SAG Award equivalent.
Yeah, lead actor. Which I would say that historically the SAG Awards are a pretty good indicator of what the Oscar nominee or winners will be. I think that in the past few years that has become less reliable.
Sure.
But it does certainly put him, I think it would be, I think it's going to be between him and Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't really see a dark horse winner here for Javier Bardem, Andrew Garfield, or Denzel Washington.
Yeah, especially with those films not even being nominated for Best Picture, I feel like that puts the odds against those actors.
Mm-hmm.
And in contrast, Jessica Chastain was the winner for lead actress in the SAG Awards for, where did it go? The Eyes of Tammy Faye, but again, that it also isn't nominated for Best Picture. And the LA Times article even indicates that's happening. Looking at this slate,
the actress in a leading role category is packed. I think if it is weird to me that King Richard is in the Best Picture conversation, but a movie like Spencer, where Kristen Stewart is nominated for Best Actress for playing Princess Diana, like those again have a very similar vibe to me. So what is it about King Richard that elevates it above something like Spencer? But yeah, this is a packed category. I don't even know. I'm not sure I don't know who I would give the edge to in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want Will to win because I feel like he's, had enough nominations and worked. He's gone from such a point from being like part of a hip hop duo to being like a regular, best actor nominee, to the point where like if he has a film at the end of the year, it's likely he's going to get nominated. I think it would be great if that was like a high point of his own like personal story. If it were up to me, this film wouldn't be the thing that gave him that award.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that assessment, because he was nominated this year. His last nomination was in 2007 for The Pursuit of Happiness.
That was a while ago, yeah.
So I don't necessarily know that he gravitates towards the kind of roles that get nominated. This feels like the most obvious, like, oh, this is my Oscar role for him.
I would argue that both 7 Pounds and Concussion were deliberate tries for Oscar nominations.
I don't know that there's a world in which 7 Pounds ever got Oscar traction, but I see what you're saying.
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
Oh, fair enough.
So I wonder if this is his legacy Oscar bid. Like, have I been here long enough? Have I done enough?
Exactly.
Have I worked hard enough?
Yeah, it's like how, Al Pacino lost out for The Godfather too, but he won for Son of a Woman.
Yes.
It wasn't actually about Son of a Woman.
Correct.
All right. Martha, always a pleasure. Where can people find you for more?
Sure. You can listen to my other podcasts that I do. Did You Do Your Homework, which I co-host with our friend Pete Romberg, where we talk about popular culture and media with an academic lens. And Love Ya, which I co-host with Pete's wife Marin, where we alternate between talking about a rom-com or a teen movie. Those update on the same feeds everywhere you get your podcasts: Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. They're both on the same feed under Did You Do Your Homework? That's also where you can find all of our social media for the shows at DYDYH Podcast. You can follow me individually at Magical Martha on all social media, including the newsletter that I write whenever I feel like it, at tinyletter.com/Magical Martha. And I have not plugged this on any of our other episodes, but I am on Letterboxd if you want to follow me and see how I'm rating these movies, and check out any of my lists. I'm way too lazy to write reviews for any of the movies that I watch, but I do give them star ratings, and sometimes I like to make rank lists of things like best shark movies.
There it is. I should get a letterbox. I don't have a letterbox.
It's fun. I actually paid for the pro subscription at the end of last year because I wanted to see all of the data on all of the movies that I had watched
That's
previous
awesome.
year.
There you go. That's a good incentive, compared to anything else.
I love data. I love a graph.